We're live. It's the Truth Faith. I'm going to stop one day starting this show with "We're live." It's the True Faith Charlotte show. I'm Charlotte Robson. It's your pre-match warm-up. We are playing Crystal Palace in 1 hour. I'm actually trying to have a little look at Twitter and see if the team sheet's come out yet, because it
has
or will have done. It has. We'll absolutely talk through that. I'm joined this evening by Norman Riley and Alex Hurst. Thank you both for joining me. I'm very grateful.
Pleasure.
What an honour to be invited onto the Charlotte show.
Yeah, I only have prestigious guests, actually. Slothy vlogs over an hour early. Wow, you would have just been looking at Norman or Jason Statham. They're interchangeable, actually. Hope everybody buzzing for the big game this evening. Alex, how are you feeling? Don't go too much into the lineup yet, but I'm gonna try and get it up on the screen. But I'm not sure I have the ability. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling better after seeing the lineup. We're not playing 5 at the back. You know, I looked at some stats this week, and we'd won 2 of our last 19 Premier League games playing that formation, which would suggest it's dreadful, and it is. So yeah, I'm feeling a little bit better. You know, I've got my pals with me here. I've got a couple of drinks going. So you know, the kind of the awfulness of this morning. I'm just going to say a more complicated word, but I'm not. I had 1 pint, so it's beyond me. It always feels so bad, doesn't it? Like everyone's like, "Oh, you know, I had the match. I'm not even going to watch it," but I'm going to watch it, and I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, well there you go. Norman, how are you feeling?
Radiant.
Radiant.
I think in terms of the match itself, I think I'm feeling a little bit ambivalent. I'm going to watch it, but obviously, given how we've performed lately and the general negative feeling that I've picked up on amongst the fans that I interact with, it's hard to get that excited. It would always be hard to get excited about a match against Crystal Palace, because Newcastle Crystal Palace matches over the years have been absolutely miserable. I'm expecting more of the same this evening, but at the same time, you know, and it's football. We might get a goal in the first 5 minutes. We may, you know, soak up a bit of pressure, hit them on the break, win 2-0, and everything will be perfect.
Yeah, but if we score in the first 5 minutes, that's us scoring quite early, and that's really hard. Whereas if they score in the first 5 minutes, they've scored quite early, and that's quite hard to come back from. So,
have we actually ever scored with it? Like, when was the last time we scored in the first 10 minutes under Bruce? I don't recall.
Man United, and it was too early. Remember, scored too early.
That's right.
Yeah. We scored too early. I am trying to put the this is why the screen keeps going a bit weird, because I'm trying to put. I've saved a picture of the. We're just going to have to talk through it, right? Okay. So as far as we can see, it's not 5 at the back. We have got Caldano, obviously, not unexpected. Manquillo, Fernandez, Clark, Lewis, who I assume are going to be a 4. John Joe Shelby, Jeff Hendrick, Sean Longstaff, Miguel Almiron. So maybe another 4. Joe Linton, Callum Wilson. So could it be a 4-4-2? What do you think, Norman?
I can't get the team up anyway. Here we are, lineups.
I'm trying really hard to put a picture on, but I'm just
all right.
making myself too big.
Wow, that does look like a 4-4-2 to me, but then that begs the question: does that mean Almiron's playing on the left of midfield, or are we going to have a situation where Almiron's a more advanced left-sided attacking player, Joe Linton a more advanced right side? By that I mean right midfield again, with a midfield 3 of Hendrick, Longstaff, and Shelby. That's a possibility as well. So there's every chance it's a kind of 4-5-1 formation that you'd like to think could become a kind of more fluid 4-3-2-1 formation. But you know what it is? It's very difficult second guessing what Newcastle United are going to do until you actually see the match start. And then even after about 15 minutes of the match, a lot of the time you're still confused. So, hey, roll on 8 o'clock, eh?
Also, 70 minutes of the match, and then sometimes 90 minutes of the match, I am still confused. So, who knows? Who knows?
A great tweet to me today that said someone that missed the last 80 minutes of the Chelsea game because they were shopping. rather than the last 10.
There's no such thing as the last 80 minutes. Surely, like that tilt over point is like the 47th minute. You can see that I missed the last, what would that be, 43 minutes because it's over half. But like the last 80 minutes, you're actually just missing the game, aren't you?
Yeah. I missed 89 minutes. I missed the last 89 minutes of it. You've watched 60 seconds of the game. You didn't miss it. You just didn't watch it. I'm going to pause actually because I meant to say this before, but I got this week or last weekend maybe. It's a little Marcus Rashford pin. And I'm only pausing to say this because it's Hopeless Football Romantics at We Are HFR on Twitter. They're all their profits are going. They're making these. They've got a few left, not loads, but all their profits are going to Fair Share, I think, or a child food poverty charity in Manchester, particularly. But I think it's just a really good thing. And the same people who made my mini Jonas Gutierrez one. Just really great.
And next fanzine that comes out, listeners, I've written an article about Marcus Rashford and what he's done in the press reaction and political reaction on certain levels to him. So pick up a copy of the fanzine when it's out next month, just to read about Marcus Rashford. Yeah,
totally. I think you should do that. I am editing it actually. There, I've said it. I'm editing the fanzine this next one, and it should be really probably the best one ever. But yes, Norman has written a really great article about Marcus Rashford. And there's lots of fun Christmas content because obviously it's going to be our Christmas issue, and lots of great stuff coming in, and some really dedicated mags writing some really good stuff. So very excited about that. Richard Smith wants to know, when is it going to be revealed that Jeff Hendrick is actually Steve Bruce's long lost son? Alex, when do you think that big reveal is going to come?
It sounds like an award-winning Netflix documentary, doesn't it? Like there's going to have to be some sort of, we could go down all kind of rabbit holes here. Who would play Jeff? Who would play Steve Bruce? To be fair, there's a lad on Twitter at the minute called Rich Oliver who's just put out another unbelievable video tonight of Bruce admitting to the squad that he dropped a bollock in the press conference and pretended that they have COVID, just to avoid some questions about the tactical farce that is. But I don't know, when you say long lost son, suggests that they might not know their father and son at the minute. So maybe it's just like a natural thing where Bruce is like, right, can't play 5 at the back again because we're being humiliated. Like I said, we've won. Well, Bruce probably doesn't know this, but we've won 2 out of the last 19 Premier League games playing 5 at the back. And he's just thinking, right, I'm going to have to go 4-4-2 because I'm going to pretend it's 2003 and Birmingham are doing well. But how do I get Jeff Hendrick in the side? So, I'd imagine he's almost like engineered a fallout with ASM just because he knows that he couldn't get Hendrick in that side without him. So it's not a bad shout.
Yeah, he's got it. Yeah, it's interesting. I hadn't thought about the element of them not actually realizing it right now. I like the idea that like they go for a COVID test and it gets mixed up with a genes test, and it turns out they've both got the same genes, and then they're like, oh my God. Like, I think that would be a really heartwarming Christmas movie. Norman, would you watch it?
Yes, of course I would.
Norman's picture's frozen, but he is there.
Oh, is it back?
It's a little grainy, but we can deal with it.
All right, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll move to a different room, like on live TV. I'll move to a different room where the reception may be better. But I was actually thinking that I don't think Jeff Hendrick's Steve Bruce's long lost son. I think it's like like cell-based meat. I think he was actually grown in a lab from a piece of Steve Bruce. I don't know if that's true. I just heard the rumor that I just made up in my head right there, so I'm not sure. I'm not too sure if it's true.
Okay, good caveat. We are live. There isn't a paywall here. Nice caveat that we don't really know if Jeff Hendrick was created in a lab out of a piece of Steve Bruce. Which piece?
The cheek.
It's cheek. Okay. Yeah, fleshy. That sort of answers Slothy Vlog's question, which is why is Hendrik back in? I guess we don't know really. I mean, it beats me, but I suppose this COVID thing, Alex. I guess it's just that he likes him.
Well, he signed them, doesn't he? And he likes the players that he signed. You know, this idea that it's Rafa's squad. You know, what can I do? And it was that they used to play this way under Rafa. It was Sai on one of the podcasts this season that basically pointed out in one of the games, like he'd signed 8 of the 11 players. So not only is this kind of in Bruce's head, Rafa disease infected players that played for Rafa, but it's now become viral. And other players who get signed don't know how to play football and can only play 5 at the back. So I think he likes him because he signed him. And, you know, it's like Andy Carroll's on a pay-as-you-play deal. And there's always, because Carroll just gets on. If he's fit, he gets on. And there's people who suggest that he gets on because, you know, it's worth 20, 30 grand to Andy Carroll. Who knows if Jeff Hendrick's on a pay-as-you-play? Because, like you say, he will, you know, doesn't matter how badly he does at his job. Both of them, Bruce and Hendrick, they still get a game. So
yeah. Well, I have a theory that Steve Bruce has a deal with Andy Carroll, which is that if he gets, you know, an appearance fee...
Well, I was hinting at it. I wasn't going to go there. I was just hinting at it, but you're just going
No. I want to be as explicit as we can be without making any real assertions that would be libelous on this show. It's just a theory. It's just a working theory. Kevin Reed wants to know what we're all drinking. Norman?
I'm drinking this stuff, and it's really good.
Well, your picture keeps cutting out, so that's very hard. Oh, there we go.
Is it still cut out? Is it frozen still?
Can
Well,
you not see yourself, Norman?
What's that?
Can you not see yourself? Because I can see me.
I can see you all perfectly. My picture hasn't frozen on my side.
Oh, right.
No, you're not frozen right now. There we go. Talk us through it. Broccoli Brewery, is it?
Broccoli Brewery. It's a brewery just down the road, and you order and they deliver like within a couple of hours. A kid cycles around and drops off a crate, and it's absolutely delicious.
A kid? That makes it sound like it's like proper like Victorian child labour, not just.
Basket on the front, and there's like really nice kind of piped music playing as he arrives at the door.
And as well.
Yeah. Rather than tip him, you just crack him around the back of the head. Classic Victorian slave labour. It's all good.
It's character building to do that, you know. Kids these days. Molly. Alex, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking since Norman's doing show and tell. Nice and plain. Bulmers.
Excellent. I'm drinking Woodford Reserve bourbon, straight on a big block of ice with a piece of orange. No fucking around before. There we go. Ollie says it's at WHFR for the little Marcus Rashford pin. Goes to charity. Why wouldn't you?
I'm going to move to the kitchen. Just to interrupt, I'm going to move into the kitchen where the reception's better. So I'm just going to go into the darkness.
Oh, this show's going great. Yes, I like. I've been gin and tonics the last few weeks, but I like bourbon, and I thought actually I have got a hint of bitters in this, so it's kind of like a shit old fashioned, like not a proper one. So there we go. That's what we're drinking, Kevin. Richard, sorry, very, very familiar with you, of me. If you look at our bench tonight, you start to wonder where our money has gone since promotion. So our bench tonight, for those of you who aren't looking at the lineup, why would you be? We have Gillespie, Matty Longstaff, Fabian Scher, Matt Ritchie, DeAndre Yedlin, Jacob Murphy, and Anderson, whose first name has gone out of my mind. Norman, what do you think of our bench now that you're in the kitchen?
I mean, it doesn't offer much. I feel as if we go behind, there's not much in the way of game changers on there, which is more or less been the case for many a year now. I mean, you're not going to bring Matt Ritchie on with like 20 minutes left to kind of get at a time in opposition, are you? Yedlin clearly is just on the bench to fill in the numbers because Bruce doesn't rate him at all. Murphy possibly is an option later on in the game, because he does have pace and he is quite direct. And obviously, you know, if you play him not at fullback, he might offer something. But I mean, there is absolutely nothing inspirational on the young kid Anderson. I don't know much about him, to be honest. Alex, you may know more. You may know more, Charlotte, but
no,
there isn't. They're just, you know what it is. I'm kind of clutching at straws, saying that Murphy might be a potential game changer. There are literally no game changers on that bench, and we don't even have a recognised centre forward on the bench, do we?
No, I don't think so. Carroll's picked up an injury, didn't he, this week? So,
no.
Pardon?
What was a joke? That was me, like, pretending to be shocked that Andy Carroll has picked up yet another injury, not playing football for Newcastle.
Yeah, he's busy on his space hopper, so you get a lot of groin strain on that. If you listen to our Patreon and my show with Norman CNN, our show, sorry, you'll understand that joke. If not, that just sounds very, very strange. But I'm not going to go into it right this second. Chris Taylor wants to know who gets the first goal tonight.
Crystal Palace.
I'm going to go with Joe Linton.
Why not? Anything can happen.
I've had half a bourbon and I've gone mad. I don't know. I don't know really how I feel, like what the score will be. I feel like if anyone's going to score, it might be Sean Longstaff or John Joe Shelby. I feel like that might be their game. Just like lob it from the centre of the pitch, basically. Norman, what do you think?
Let me have a look at Palace's team. I think either I'll see if the first Palace goal will be Jordan Ayew. The first Newcastle goal will be a miracle. So there you go. But if it's gonna be anyone, it's gonna be a Callum Wilson penalty, innit?
Yeah, there we go.
I also come up with a theory about Jeff Hendrick as well, why he's in the side tonight, because free scoring Crystal Palace. Those two centre midfielders, MacArthur and Kouyaté, are absolutely dynamic-minded attacking midfielders who are just absolute creative forces, and he needs Hendrick to combat the threat of Palace's outrageously gifted attacking centre midfield. It's a tactical move. I back it.
Okay. Yeah, he doesn't do tactics, but okay.
Yeah. I wasn't being sarcastic.
No, totally serious. Absolutely. This is a very, very serious show, so you better not have been. Keith B says, Elliot Anderson is a midfielder, been playing well for the under-23s. Well, that's promising. That's good to know. Thank you for that extra colour. I don't know much about him. I don't really follow the under-23s much, so that is good to know.
They get beat a lot by the first team.
Say that again?
The under-23s are a lot like the first team. They get beat most weeks.
My only concern as well is it's good to see a player from the academy. It's always good to see a player from the academy come through. And a lot of the time that can be because there is a lack of numbers more than it is to do with any kind of outstanding ability. My only concern with players who are coming from the under-23s is that if you're at the under-23s and you kind of have to go through the under-23s to get to the first team, it means that you haven't come through very quickly. You know what I mean? It's almost a case of the under-23s. It's like it doesn't even feel like they're a step up. It feels like they're just a kind of reserve team full of players who are going to be looking for new contracts at different clubs soon. That's my only concern. But at the same time, I'd love for this kid to come in and come off the bench today and show real potential.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's just it's just such a feel-good story, isn't it? More than anything else, and good for him. Alex, your little finger was waving in the air there.
Yeah, Martin Hardy, Newcastle United journalist and friend of True Faith, has just tweeted that 3 of Newcastle's squad tonight come from North Tyneside. So that's great. I'm currently speaking to you all from North Tyneside, one of the most populated and worst for COVID boroughs in the northeast. But it's not all bad news because we've got three lads playing for Newcastle tonight from the area. So that's decent. I'm proud of that.
That is great. That's a lovely little fact.
And he's 18, right? He's only 18, Elliot Anderson. So he is really young. So the fact that he's had that confidence shown in him is a positive. So let's see.
We're not a million miles away. Sorry, Charlotte, you're the host. Apologies.
That's correct. I am. He might be one of Steve Bruce's cheek children. We don't know. Greetings from North Carolina from B. Gardner. Hi. Wow. Where are you in North Carolina? Is there a Charlotte in North Carolina, or is that in South Carolina?
It's North Carolina.
North Carolina. And Charleston's North Carolina, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, greetings. I hope that the hurricane last September wasn't too bad on you. If supporters were allowed back, what kind of atmosphere would welcome Steve Bruce to Selhurst Park this evening? Alex, what kind of atmosphere would it be?
This is the thing. I think the home fans would have 100% turned on Bruce, but I'm not sure if the away fans would yet, in terms of the start of the game. I think someone else earlier asked, what would it take for Bruce to be sacked? And my answer would be fans to be allowed back into St James's Park, because I don't buy the fact that it's just social media who wants him sacked. I don't know anyone who enjoys anything to do with Newcastle United at the minute because of Steve Bruce, not just because of Steve Bruce, but mainly because of Steve Bruce. But it would be toxic, particularly if we go behind and play like we did last season at Crystal Palace, which was badly. So yeah, it's Steve Bruce is a lucky man that essentially, he talked about grumbles last week when there's literally no one in the ground, so he's hearing voices. It's not a good sign.
I agree, and I said it on the free podcast. The grumbles word really, really pisses me off because it infantilizes and belittles legitimate frustrations that the fans have. And Sai's written a piece for the fanzine, for the next fanzine, and he mentioned the keyboard warriors comment, and he was like, have you not noticed, Steve, that everyone is behind a keyboard at the moment because there's a global pandemic? Like, of course we're keyboard warriors, like everyone is behind a keyboard. I agree with Alex that I think that he's very lucky that we aren't there. More so at St James's Park, where 49,000 people could in theory be shouting Bruce out, but the away fans are notoriously noisy and vocal, and I don't think that he would get a good kind of atmosphere. What do you think, Norman?
I think Palace is unique because the matches are so bad at Palace. What they tend to do is they take you into the sort of bar area before you go into the stadium, and they just pump sort of banging Berlin techno and Ibiza trance at you for like an hour. So by the time you actually get in the stadium, you're on a bit of a come down, and the football's irrelevant. You're just lost in your own little world. So I don't think there would be much there. You're too devastated at your big sort of position in life to even protest by the time you get in. But in general, I think it's difficult to say. I think if there were fans in the stadium, let's say at St James's Park, and things had gone the way they have, then I think at the minute a lot of people would be apathetic. So I think you would have vocal protestation, no doubt. But at the same time, I think what would happen is you'd have a lot of people just not going to the match for a start. You're looking at like potentially 10,000 off the gate minimum, unless the season tickets are given out free again. There's that, and then there's people who've got season tickets just not turning up. So even then, when it's saying there's 42,000 in the stadium, it might be less than that. And on top of that, you'd have people leaving early because the football's so bad. So you'd have people leaving sort of 10, 15 minutes before the end. So the protesting, it would be there. There would be vocal fans. But at the same time, I think a lot of people would just be not apathetic, but just kind of even beyond protest. It'd be like, oh, well, there it is. Because the reality is we've had years of this. There'd be anger, but I'm saying it wouldn't be, I don't think it would be this kind of vociferous 49,000, lump of people shouting abuse at him. It wouldn't be, I don't think it would be that vitriolic in the sense that he could actually feel it from the stands.
I would agree with you if we'd been in the stands this whole time, but if we're all just allowed back in now, like after, like say like tonight or,
That's a fair point.
Next game, and we were all allowed in then, I think it would be vitriolic because it is the first time that supporters are able physically to use their voice and show them what they think. maybe.
No, that's a really good point. And like the way you're looking at it, if we were allowed to go into the next home game, it will be, if for whatever reason overnight it was like, okay, the stadiums are reopened, everyone can go in, you can have 52,000 at your next home game. Then I agree with you. I think it would be, given how people are feeling at the moment. But I guess I'm thinking of if we'd been gunning into the stadiums, if COVID hadn't happened, if we'd been going to the matches since March last year. I suppose I'm only basing it on what's gone on in the past, and there have been situations where people are just starting to feel just apathetic. But then again, I guess you've got to factor in the takeover not going ahead as well, so that's probably affected people's anger.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's all just speculation, right?
I mean, yeah, I think the football is so bad that people would be pissed off, and then there is the takeover thing that's just dragging on, and there's a lot of anger there, and it's just a hard time, isn't it? It's just a shitty time. George Proud, thanks for the fun before the madness kicks off. Not been to St. James since Carlos Santana played. Happy Friday from Southwest France. I got to say, I love that we're all over the globe tonight. That's very nice. Happy Friday to you, George. When was Santana there? I love Santana. I really like good Latin guitar. I don't think you can go wrong. That's so fun. What a good memory for you. I do have another question from Slothy Vlogs. Will Bruce think a point is a good result tonight? Because I don't. Alex, do you think Bruce is going to be playing for a point tonight?
Yeah, Davey, I think a point is a good result. We've lost 4 of our last 5 games, and we're like literally terrible. So going away from home and not getting beat suggests an improvement of sorts. And if we get beat tonight, the first thing Bruce will say in his press conference will be, well, we've opened up. Even if we have no shots and they have 30, he'll be like, sometimes that's the price you pay if we've opened up. So I really hope we get a point, or we're going to have to go back to 5 at the back against Villa next Friday night. And Villa is a game I really, really need us for my own well-being. I need not to lose that game, just for a lot of reasons, which I've been into before on True Faith. So I'd take a point right now. In fact, don't play the game. I'll probably sit here and talk about Newcastle with you two and you people watching, than watch the game. We'll call it a draw.
All right, okay. I didn't realize it was so simple, but great. Point each. Everyone can go home. A2 says, must be the end of the road from now, especially with the rumours he's lost the dressing room. That's really interesting. There's been another comment on Twitter, which I haven't typed out. I need to get a microphone stand so I can type out the things. Alex, buy me a microphone stand, please. But somebody on Twitter has said, what do you make of the ASM quote-unquote injury and rumours of dressing room unrest? In my opinion, it's done for Bruce and we're simply waiting for him to be sacked now. So there have been little rumours and people talking about the fact that he's lost the dressing room a bit. I said it this week, and I said it, I'm really proud of myself for some reason that my club is imploding. But I did say, I think that Saturday's performance was not a performance of players playing for their manager. It just looked really, really like even more disengaged than I've seen it in ages. Players who just didn't know where they're supposed to be or didn't even care, and then follow on these rumours that Steve Bruce has lost the dressing room. Norman, what do you make of them, and what do you make of quote unquote this injury for ASM? There's a lot of skepticism online that he is in fact injured, led I think by the fact that if he was injured, Steve Bruce would play him anyway. What do you think?
Well, if he's lost the dressing room, it's virtually impossible to get it back. I suppose if you bring it into your own life, when you are in a workplace and you end up disliking the manager, they can never make you like them again. It's like that. The relationship is irreparable. So for Bruce, I guess, if it's the case that he's lost the dressing room, the only way he'll ever get it back is if by some miracle he keeps us up and then he kind of ships most of the players. Now, in terms of how much impact it'll have on his job, I mean, if they're down tools, obviously not go on strike, but if they're just down tools on the pitch, like you alluded to in the last match, then he's only on a limited shelf life anyways, because if we lose 5 or 6 games off the spin, then Charnley and Ashley will surely have to look at that and think, okay, this very much smacks of McLaren, and it very much smacks of 08, 09, that they tried to change it, then it didn't work. And you'd like to think it would be sensible enough to make a change. But I don't think the players are completely down tools. And I guess it's whether or not those players who are supposedly at the moment, who are supposedly showing a lack of confidence in him, if there's anyone in that dressing room who's got the actual sway to influence others. Sometimes you'll have like a couple of players who are kind of upset, and then that'll rub off on the other players. And if those players are quite important at the club, they can kind of influence the decisions taken in the boardroom. But I don't think that's the case at Newcastle. And I think as long as Bruce kind of ekes out results, which I think even if the players aren't particularly happy with him, they're still capable of doing. And I think that'll be how it would continue. The players won't necessarily be happy with him, but he'll eke out enough results, and that'll keep the board happy. As I say, it's not like that clubs like let's just throw a name in, like someone like as horrible as John Terry. His impact and role at that club, he could turn round to whoever was in charge, Abramovich, and say, I'm not happy with this manager, and that would mean something.
Yeah.
That kind of relationship doesn't exist at Newcastle. So as far as I can see, as long as Bruce scrapes results through, it doesn't actually matter whether or not the players are necessarily committed to him, because the bottom line is surviving the Premier League. That's the immediate future that I can see, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, even if you do lose the dressing room list, then, there are still players there who maybe they want to leave, but they've got to show other clubs what they could buy, right? You can't just down tools, as you say, Norman. You've got to still make yourself a reasonable prospect, even if you're not, even if there's no cohesion in the squad. You have to do something to make yourself attractive to a buyer, right? Alex, what do you think? This is Kieran Wakefield's also written on our comments here that he's heard that Bruce has fallen out with Sam Max. Is it bollocks or is it true? I don't think you have a webcam in either of their houses set up, so I don't know that you'll know exactly if it's true or not. I might be wrong. But what do you
telling me the trust? Sorry, Charlotte, I interrupted there.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, you're telling me the trust doesn't have cameras in every player's house?
Not yet. That's something we're working on. If there's more members, more money coming in, I'm sure we can get some high tech equipment. That's absolutely not what we do, to be clear. Alex, what do you think?
First of all, I think the rumours about Bruce losing the dressing room might not be accurate. He might just have forgotten where it is. I wouldn't put it past him. But Norman's absolutely spot on. Yes, I can, because you look at the story in the press yesterday about St. Maximin being lazy. You look at Shearer having a go at him. I think that all comes from Steve Bruce. Journalists like Martin Hardy writing about how he was set to be dropped. There's clearly something going on. I'm not having that. Charlie was spot on. If he was a little bit injured, Bruce would have just played, and that's what he does with injured players. That's why we'll have so many muscle injuries. So you look at John Joe Shelby's back already. He's supposed to be out for like 3 months. Back. Gale out for the season. He's back. I think there is something. If you look at it, if I was St. Maximin, I'd be foaming for 2 reasons. He signed this new contract, and since he's signed it, he's been accused of being lazy. He's been accused of I think the term in a few news articles was not lifting a leg. Let's be clear, no one else but Steve Bruce, probably in the Northeast, uses a phrase like that. Something out of like the 1940s. And ever since he signed the contract, two-bob phrase. Since that, he has been played up front or behind the strike. He's not a striker. Like we did podcasts at the end of last season against Brighton and Liverpool when he played St. Maximin behind the striker, and it was just like, right, okay, good job. We'll never have to see that again because it was so dreadful. How do you beat Burnley 3-1? Right? I suppose if you played against Man United, but he beat Burnley 3-1, was man of the match, and then since then he's played him out of position. So that would piss me off if I was St. Maximin. And then to have all these stories coming out about him being lazy, clearly fed from someone at the club. Like, they've obviously fallen out. I expect to see St. Maximin come back and say, he's done it before. Craig Hope said they'd fall out, and that was the classic Steve Bruce. Are you calling me a liar? Like, that's where that came from. They've obviously fallen out. We've got Jeff Hendrick on the right midfield and tell St. Maximin at night, for God's sake. It's sad.
Norman, your finger went up there.
It's just very easy and convenient to label Alain Saint-Maximin as a lazy player, isn't it?
Yeah.
It plays into, and I'm not saying this is necessarily something that people are doing directly, but it plays into a trope. And to say that is, to be frank, to actually accuse Maximan of being lazy. I don't know what goes on at the training ground. Of course, I don't. But all I do is I get the feeling from it that it is very easy for people in football to label a player like Saint-Maximin lazy if he's not doing exactly what they want him to do.
The thing is, Saint-Max's work rate on like a good day in a position that he should be in is astonishing. Like it's so much, it's just astonishing. So when he's played out of position and he's not happy and he's still playing reasonably well, let's be clear, he's absolutely not the worst player on the pitch by a long stretch. He gets labelled as lazy, and I just think that's unfair and shit.
So Maximan literally carries this team at times.
He's the tactic, mate.
I mean, I think sometimes the praise for him can be overblown because he's but like a lot of players who are very, very skillful and very, very explosive, and he's an incredible athletic player because he's fouled more than anyone else. He gets kicked more than anyone else. He has to provide when Newcastle don't win. Since he signed, we've won one league game without him in the team against same opposition actually against Crystal Palace, and Crystal Palace should have won that game against us last season, last December. So even for argument's sake, saying that he is lazy, like if there's one player who probably deserves a bit of a off patch or an off period or going below the weather, like a lot of players with that kind of ability do, it would be him. And it's incredibly harsh to suggest. I mean, the fact that he was going to be dropped tonight, according to these reports, is ridiculous. It's the most ridiculous aspect of the Blues tenure so far.
Yeah.
For Chet Henrik, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you what, right? This is the crap with Maximan. He is basically our only tactic, right? That is the tactic. The tactic is literally defend, give the ball to Maxi. That is pretty much what it's been. And you just mentioned there that one win without him in the side. Now, if Maximan has played out of position and has a few off games, because that reflects on the team's results, i.e. the team don't get results because literally we only get results when Maximan's playing well, then it seems to me that he's being targeted. It's like, oh, the results aren't very good. It must be Maxi's fault because he's lazy. It's like, no, hold on. He's the only tactic we've got. So I think calling him, as I say, I don't know what goes on in the training ground course, but calling him lazy, it's just bang on wrong. Simple as that.
Yeah, I'd agree. King Cooper, hello, King. You watch very regularly. Wants to know, what's the picture behind Norman? Can Alex show us his favourite book? And what's on your little green bottle, Charlotte? So he's really examining. We're obviously thrilling this evening because he's really examining our backgrounds. Embarrassingly, that little green bottle is a Mitchum. It's a deodorant. I'm really happy that it's in shot. That's also my play. Like, oh god, it's really bad that it's there, but it's deodorant. I did not think. I think I'm blushing now. I don't blush very easily, so well done to you, Norman. What's your picture?
It's if I can move it away, it is. It's a picture of a deer sniffing a rose on a moonlit hill.
Lovely.
Isn't it?
I like that a lot.
Me too. I was thinking about getting the deer tattooed on my back.
Oh, you should.
Maybe. I've got a full eagle on there now, like Prince Charles. Do you remember when Prince Charles said he wanted to get tattooed? I think he was talking. He was like introduced to someone, on one of these the functions he does. He said, "I've always fancied getting an eagle tattooed on my chest."
That's incredible.
There you go.
I wish that he would. Have you ever seen Ben Affleck's tattoo? Ben Affleck has one of the worst tattoos I've ever seen. It's his entire back, and it's a phoenix rising from the flames in loads of different colours. It's truly, truly disgusting. Alex, what's your favourite book?
I'll not grab it because it's all over there. I've got a biography of Julius Caesar by Adrian Goldsworthy, which I love. But I've also got another copy on my bookshelf of True Faith Newcastle United fans.
Wow, really good.
You don't have it, why not? £2.50 plus postage. King Cooper, your tennis in the post for asking that question. On the back, Keegan, previous cover. So there, that was nice.
Very good. Very, 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 very good. let's have a little look at the rest of our questions. Here we go. Soaked 23 with a Blink 182 picture. McLaren or Bruce, who will leave a worse legacy at our club? Alex, I'll come to you on that one.
Bruce. McLaren, for all his faults, took over a side that had collapsed, a football club that had collapsed under the weight of, the pressure of Pardew and fans wanting rid of him. There was no transfer business for years and years. It was a squad and a team that was depleted, and they tried to kind of fix it in one summer by signing. McLaren demanded a Premier League striker. He got a mad Serbian 20-year-old and Chancellor Mbemba at the back. And he took over from John Carver, and he took over after the Jonas Gutierrez scandal, which it was and still is a scandal. So McLaren was terrible for Newcastle. Bruce took over a team that had the 7th and 8th best defensive record in the division, and immediately got £100 million to spend. So if you look at where they both started in terms of what they were inheriting, Bruce was inheriting a side and a system that understood. He inherited an identity, not necessarily an identity which was the end product, but there was something to build on. Whereas McLaren was basically not the man, a terrible appointment to come in and start from the ground up. That's not his role. He's just not a good manager, as he's proved that since.
Yeah.
But Bruce had, if you look at the performances of the last couple of weeks, they were everything that we didn't have under the previous manager. Mostly because there were bad times under Rafa Benitez, quite a few of them, in fact, but they were always fixed within a week. There was always a sign of progression. Someone put it quite well to me this week that under Rafa, Newcastle were greater than the sum of their parts. Under Bruce, were lesser than the sum of our parts, but underperform. So definitely Bruce for me. It's a good question.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think if you look at what's McLaren, don't get me wrong, McLaren isn't going to leave it hasn't left a good legacy, right? It's not like these are there's an astronomical difference between these two, right? Alex?
No. I mean, we did get relegated because of Steve McLaren.
Yeah.
And, it's like, I think McLaren was he was also shafted in the transfer market. He was, and I have no affection for him, but he told Newcastle United what he needed that season, and they ignored him. He needed an experienced Premier League centre half and an experienced Premier League striker. He got two teenagers from Belgium, and whilst a lot of it is his fault, he did that. Steve Bruce comes in and says that it was his decision to buy Joe Linton. Do you know what I mean? So it's not, they're completely. If Steve Bruce was a good manager, he comes in and says, "Sorry lads, can't do this one. It's not good enough. I've been scouting. I've got European contacts. I think Steve Bruce is. My dad tonight, for example, didn't even know what playing. Person that has had a season ticket for nearly 50 years at Newcastle, as long as he can have one, has been going to Newcastle since the early 1960s. Didn't know what playing, and I know more and more stories like that under Steve Bruce. I didn't know any stories like that under Steve McLaren.
Yeah. Norman?
I think I'd look at it in two ways. Now, Steve McLaren, he neither improved nor made the side better, the club better. The club was in a terrible state when he took over. It was in a terrible state when he left. Steve Bruce has taken something that was heading in a very positive and upward direction, and he's made it systematically, spectacularly worse. And when he leaves, we will be in a worse state than we were when he arrived. And as terrible as Steve McLaren was, that wasn't the case. We were terrible when he arrived, we were terrible when he left. It's as simple as that.
Well said.
Yeah, agreed. It is about, I think what you've inherited and what you do with it. It is a little bit depressing. Martin Nordby, apologies, Martin, if I'm saying your name wrong, says, I heard some rumors about Bruce being sacked. Well, you're just trying to get us excited before the game. I don't think that's true. Where did you hear those rumors? Come on, I want receipts. I don't want random comments like that. I want to know the facts. Slothy says, Roy versus Bruce tonight is the battle of the dinosaurs. And then Calvin Holman says, predictions for the El Jurassico, which I think is very funny. I don't want to get into predictions just yet because I think we can probably do about 5-10 minutes more before the game, give everybody a chance to get another drink.
Can we just pretend that we've only done 10 minutes and do like another hour and then miss the first half?
You mean miss the last 80 minutes of the game?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Okay. Martin says he saw it on the internet. I'm Norwegian and don't have a clue. That doesn't mean it doesn't matter that you're Norwegian. Thank you for joining us. I hope it's right.
To be fair, I saw on the internet if you inject bleach into your veins, they'll get rid of COVID. So I'm not too sure I'd buy much into those rumors.
I would love. I'd quite like that to be true, Martin. But I'm not going to get my hopes up yet. I got my hopes dashed too many times by Newcastle United, so I'm going to hang fire for an official announcement on that one before I get too excited. I think it was Slothy says just stay on and chat to us. We won't miss too much. Also, I call you Slothy, and I know your name is Dave, right? It's Dave. Davey. Sorry, Davey. But I read what I see and don't think with my brain, so I apologize. Yes, we will do predictions in about 5 minutes, I think, before we sign off and let everybody go and get ready, like get comfortable, pour a drink, make a tea, whatever your vice is. Doesn't have to be a vice.
Yeah. The extension lead in the bathroom with a toaster.
Yeah, maybe. Alex, where do you think Dwight Gale is?
I think he's in his house tonight in Ponteland, and he.
That sounds like a webcam kind of comment to me.
One of my wife's garden backs onto his, so I've been camping out each night to get a glimpse. But he's back in training this week. There was kind of some talk he might make the squad tonight, which would make the bench look a lot stronger. Dwight Gale's not everyone's cup of tea. I really like him. I think, I don't want him to be our main striker, but I think he got 4 Premier League goals and 10 starts last season, which in a team like ours, which simply doesn't score goals, and none of those were penalties. So it's not like he was boosting it that way. I thought the season will finish 10th under Rafa. He only got 7 league goals, I think, or 6 league goals, but his overall play was very good. And then I thought it was actually a mistake by Rafa. It wasn't a mistake by Rafa because he wanted to buy Salomon Rondon as well as Dwight Gale and have both of them for 16 million quid, but the club wouldn't do it. And the only way West Brom would let Rondon leave on loan was if Gale came the other way. And of course he came in, I think nearly scored 30 goals for them, which he'll do in the Championship.
Yeah.
But I hope he's back soon. Unlike Andy Carroll, he scores. He does occasionally score for Newcastle. Yes, he's a 1-3, 1-4 striker, and fans get annoyed with him because he misses some good chances. But Callum Wilson missed a sitter against Brighton, and there wasn't the same kind of fury that there was towards Dwight Gale when he did against Man City last season. So I hope he's back really soon. Do we need better as a football club? Of course we do. But in terms of what we've got, and in terms of what could come in from what we've seen, I mean, if you look at the players that have come in under Bruce, apart from Wilson, look at last January, Bentaleb and Rose, and did we sign someone else with Lazaro, who hardly got a kick? I worry about who's going to come in next, even though we had a decent summer. So yeah, Dwight Gale for me, Dwight Gale. I hope he's back soon on the bench.
Yeah. I think Alex. I think you really like Dwight Gale. I like him a lot, but what I like more than anything is actually having, centre forward options, and we don't have those at the moment. So having that kind of depth and options is important to me. Norman?
Just want to back up what Alex said there about Dwight Gale. Now, he's a fantastically prolific Championship striker. When he's fit, his goals record is insane in the Championship. Now, he was asked to do a job in the Premier League first season back up under Rafa. And towards the end of that season, we were in fantastic form up until when we lost to West Brom 1-0 at home after we'd secured our status in the Premier League. That period of going from kind of being in a relegation battle to securing safety. We played excellent football, and a lot of that was down to the relationship that Dwight Gale had with John Joe Shelby on the pitch. And then he's sent out on loan for a season. He is back because West Brom don't buy him. He's injured for the best part of the first half of the season, more or less. He comes back in when the chips are down again against Wolves, has a really good game. We get a good point of Wolves. He gets injured, has to go off. And then he comes back in again against, I think, perhaps Burnley, maybe. Burnley. And all of a sudden, you know, I mean, we beat Southampton 1-0 away when Dwight Gale's up front, missing chances, but being in there, being a centre forward, creating problems for defenders. And then we come back from the lockdown, and he comes on the pitch and he scores goals. So if you look at him one way, yes, he's got a 1-3, 1-4 record in the Premier League, but actually, when he's been in the side at Newcastle in the Premier League, it's coincided with some of our better runs and performances.
Yeah. I think he benefits a lot from really knowing our squad and knowing our team and knowing the club. I think he does. He is somebody that you can just kind of slot in a way, like who will do the work. Jack Nesbitt says, if we think things are bad, just imagine we hadn't signed Callum Wilson in the summer. Well, yeah.
But the thing is, like last season, it's unsustainable having a Premier League squad where your top scorer is a midfielder who gets 5 goals. Like that is unsustainable. Like that was by dint of sheer luck last season. We had defenders scoring headers from corners in the early part of the season. We don't seem to have that anymore. So, getting Callum Wilson in and keeping him fit, especially given what we said about Dwight Gale, is absolutely vital to our prospects of surviving this season. I don't think we can deny that.
Yeah, agreed. Calvin Holman says, will we see St. Max come out and say he's fully fit? So, interesting question. I don't know. I don't think so.
You'd have to assume that the injury thing has come from the player himself. If he might, it's one of them situations where he's been told you're dropped, and then he said, "I'm not playing," or he says, "or you're on the bench," and he said, "Well, I'm injured, so I can't be on the bench." You just don't know, do you? I don't think he would come out and say, if he comes out and says he's fully fit, like one of him or Steve Bruce has to leave the club. It's like Craig Bellamy and Graham Souness at Arsenal in 2004, where Souness said Bellamy picked up an injury and Bellamy said, "No, I was fully fit." Bellamy lasted about a week before he got to Celtic, which worked out great for Newcastle. So I don't think you'll see that, no, Calvin, but it's an interesting one to keep an eye on.
It's an end game, right? If that happens, it is an end game for either Bruce or Maximan, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is interesting because, where you have the Bellamy comparison, that was before an age of social media that we're in now, and something that St. Max makes quite a lot of use of. I know that in the article, I think Chris Waff wrote about him, he was reasonably candid about the fact that it wasn't just him running it, his friends did it for him as well. But he is active on that, and I wonder if the odd sort of like of a tweet or a like of a something often is saying something that you're not saying outright.
I don't think Bellamy's MySpace page was quite as impactful.
Bellamy's Nebo. All right, well, it's coming up. It's 6 minutes till kickoff, so we will do our predictions now, I think, for El Jurassico. Alex, what do you think the scoreline is going to be in 2 hours' time?
0 each.
Right. Oh, that's going to be a thrilling game. For what it's worth, Davey/Slothy agrees with you. Norman, what do you think?
Alex, you took my guess. No, 1-0 either way.
No, pick away.
Crystal Palace.
Oh, no, man.
No, I'm just tempting fate now. Tempting fate.
Okay, well, Jinky says 7-0 Palace.
Maybe it's
Crystal Palace.
But in a way, I kind of think we need a thrashing like that for eyes.
When we played Palace last season, I don't think they'd scored since the mid-70s, and everyone knew, like the whole away and just knew Palace are going to score today because that's Steve Bruce's Newcastle, and then Van Aanholt scored a free kick. Palace should have won that game 7-0, so it might not be miles off.
Martin says 1-0 Palace, same as you, Norman. Yeah. I'm going to go with Now, I can't remember. I made a prediction on our Pro View on Patreon with Keith Gillespie this week.
You should get Keith back on.
Pardon?
You can't change your mind in the intervening period. That would be outrageous.
Well, it's less about changing my mind and more about remembering what I said and what mood I was in when I said it. I'm going to go with 1-1. I think we will both score.
A goal fest.
It's going to be an absolute goal fest itself. You're going to hear it from your house, Norman.
I can't wait. Yeah.
I'll
have Brucey on the sidelines, dishing out the instructions.
Perfect. Martin Bailey ending the show on a happy note. This could be dreadful tonight. The man's comments just get worse by the game. Yes, that is, of course, what we kind of look forward to by the end of it. Like, what's Steve Bruce going to say about tonight? We play Brucey Bingo. Are we still a work in progress? Did we open up? We gave it a chance. All kinds of things. But I will go. Yeah. Say again?
We haven't played well. We know that. We'll move on. That's the Premier League.
Yeah, his mouth must get tired of saying those words. Anyway, we're 4 minutes out from the game now. I will let everybody go, get a drink, settle up, and Alex will be back with Norman and Mark and Luke Edwards tomorrow with a post-match podcast on the free. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Take care. Good night.